Hey everyone, welcome back for the Module 2 grammar lesson on the simple past with irregular verbs. I'm Jordan and I'm an instructor with the Tutorium in Intensive English at the University of Illinois at Chicago. Let's see what we have going on today. So in today's lesson, we will review the simple past rules for regular verbs. We will look at some example sentences with irregular verbs in the simple past. We will learn the grammar rules for the irregular verbs in the simple past. And we'll practice a little bit with this grammar concept. So first of all, let's review what we discussed in our last video. If you remember, rule number 1 for regular verbs in the simple past, if you have a verb that ends in E, you add a D. For example, like ends in an E, you add D, it becomes liked. Love becomes loved, smile becomes smiled, and bake becomes baked. Rule number 2, if a verb does not end in an E, you add ED. For example, play ends in a Y, you add ED, it becomes played. Cook ends in K, you add ED, it becomes cooked. Smell ends in L, you add ED, it becomes smelled. And start ends in T, you add ED, it becomes started. The last rule for regular verbs is a little harder. For verbs that end in a consonant and a Y, you take out the Y and add IED. Just to review, what's a consonant? Well, look at the note at the bottom of the screen. The vowels are letters like A, E, I, O, U. Consonants are everything else. So let's look at some examples just to review. Word 1, carry. Look before the Y, there's an R. That's a consonant. So we take out the Y and add IED, carried. Copy. Look before the Y, there's a P. We take out the Y and add IED, copied. Apply. Look before the Y, there's an L, that's a consonant. Take out the Y, add IED. And fancy. Look before the Y, there's a C, that's a consonant. Take out the Y, add IED. That's a review of the regular tense verbs and how they change in the simple past. But let's talk about the irregular verbs. Irregular verbs do not follow the rules that we just looked at. Let's look at some examples. Go. Steph went to Michigan over the weekend. Buy. Chris and Becky bought lunch at Panda Express in Student Center East. Give. Matt gave one of his students a pencil during the test. Okay. These bolded words, the dark words, went, bought, gave. Those are simple past verbs. There's no D, ED, or IED. Instead, the word changes almost completely. Go becomes went, buy becomes bought, and give becomes gave. What's happening here? Well, we'll learn in a second. We have to look at the simple past with the verb be. So, be. I was a student at UIC in 2008. This is true. Be. Stephen was in Skylab during the lunch break. Be. Beata and Nora were on campus last Saturday. So again, the simple past is tricky with regular verbs. With the verb to be, it also looks completely different. So what can we do about that? Well, first of all, rule number one is sometimes there is no rule, but we do have tips or advice to help you. First of all, you will need to practice with and memorize irregular verb forms. This can be challenging. One place to start is to learn the 10 most common irregular verbs. We'll practice with those today. And as you learn new verbs, learn its 3 forms. Right now, the simple past is the second form. So, for example, you have a verb go. That's its first form, its base form, infinitive. Simple past, went, and then past participle, we'll talk about that later, gone. Learn those 3 forms with every verb that you learn. That will really help you with multiple verb tenses. Very useful. Rule number 2 is that the be verb and only the be verb changes with the subject or depending on the subject. For example, we have our subjects on the left and the be verb on the right. So, subject I was, you were, he, she, it was, we were, they were. You will need to practice with this. So let's practice today for a little bit with the 10 most common irregular verbs. Say. What do you think say becomes? Said? Not quite. Said. Notice the pronunciation change. Say is the base form. Said is the simple past form. Go. We talked about this. Go becomes went. Come. also different. Come becomes came. No. What's that one? No. New. Okay. Get becomes got. You'll also hear with my accent, I eat the T, got. So I don't say got, I say got. Just a little pronunciation note that happens frequently. Give becomes gave. Okay. Become. This looks similar to another verb. Do you remember the past tense form of came? Well, this one looks the same. Became. The O becomes an A. Find. Finded? Well, I don't know. Ah, found. Okay. Think. Think. This one is wild. It looks totally different. Thought. That GH spelling is very strange. We say thought. Same thing, that T at the end, I eat my T's. Thought. See. Saw. Also completely different. I love irregular verbs. I feel like they just look so cute when they change. See becomes saw. Well, that's all for today's lesson. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thanks for practicing with me. We'll work with some more verb tenses next time. See you later.